my homestead and welcome to my channel. In this video we're going to be talking about the Jewish Messiah or Moshiach that they are expecting. Of course, this channel, we are Christian. I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and so I recognize Jesus Christ as the Messiah. But I think that we would do well to watch the Jewish world. And like I've said in other videos, if you've been watching my channel for a while, we should keep an eye on what's happening in Israel and in Judaism, because we do know that Christ is going to come to them on the Mount of Olives, and the Jews that are alive that are there, they're going to convert. They're going to accept him as the true Messiah once they see who he really is, right? And I really do feel like their minds are being prepared for this event. Now, they don't know it yet, of course, but there has been just a lot of intense focus, and there's been kind of a fever pitch, from what I can tell, in them expecting the Messiah to come, and like imminently. And I think that the Lord is working with them. He's preparing their minds for that day when he comes to the Mount of Olives. So there's been a lot of interesting things happening lately. Now, I do not accept the idea of a one big bad Antichrist of the last days. I feel like that idea comes from other Christian denominations, especially evangelicals. Okay, there's a lot of LDS people that have adopted that view, even though it's not in any church literature whatsoever. It's not talked about in general conference, manuals, the ensign, anywhere at all. People normally get this, I think, from Revelation. Well, for one thing, people will look at, for example, the book of Daniel and the book of Revelation, which both describe very, very similar beasts. In fact, you could argue they're actually the same beasts. It's just that in the book of Daniel, they're separated, and then in Revelation, they're all put together into one beast with many different heads. But those heads match the beast of Daniel, and we know what they are because the interpretation is in the scriptures themselves, that these are worldly kingdoms, right? But there is a point where, with the last beast in Daniel, you have 10 horns, which represent 10 kingdoms that come out of the Roman Empire, and then there's an 11th horn that's smaller, and it has eyes and a mouth, and it speaks horrible things. And so people will look at that and they'll say, oh, that's the Antichrist. And I don't accept that view. We've read the Institute manual, and I can't remember the guy's name. I think his name is Sperry. But he said, I think that little horn is the great and abominable church. And that makes sense to me, because if the horns are kingdoms, then the little horn is probably something similar to a kingdom. So I think that it is the great and abominable church. I've also made the argument that it could possibly be the Vatican, because the Vatican is literally a little kingdom. It's a little country within and among the other 10 kingdoms that came out of the Roman Empire. But that's not really the point of this. So I'm just letting you know, like, my point of view on the Antichrist. We know in the Bible dictionary and from church leaders that Antichrists are anybody that go against Christ and his doctrine. There are many, many Antichrists. So I reject the idea of like a singular Antichrist that we have to see before the second coming happens, because a lot of people are waiting for a big Antichrist to appear before the second coming. Otherwise, well, we know that we're not close because we haven't seen the Antichrist yet. And I think that that's wrong. But go see my playlist. I have an entire playlist about the Antichrist, and we go into it deeper. That's just kind of an overview. Now, one thing that I have wondered, though, is in the book of Revelation, it talks about a false prophet. And I can't find any commentary about it, about what that means from an LDS point of view. And I don't know if this is just talking generically about false prophets, because there are many false prophets. Although I was thinking as we were driving home today from doing errands about the Jewish Moshiach that they're expecting. There's a rabbi that claims to have been in talks with him. So what that means if that's true, and by the way, if you've been watching my channel for a while, I'm talking about Rabbi Kanievsky, the one that died recently, that caused a huge uproar when he died. And we're about to cover that story in just a minute. But he claimed that he was in talks with Messiah. So if that's true, and he is like, he was considered like the top rabbi, essentially, then what that means is that there's some person out there that believes that he is Messiah, and because Rabbi Kanievsky, I have to read it. I'm going to say Kanievsky. Because they respect his opinion, there's probably other rabbis that are in the know, they're in the circle, and know who this person is. So what that means, okay, think about this. We know that right now the Israeli government is kind of, it's weak. The coalition put together by Naftali Bennett and his, the group that came together to oust Benjamin Netanyahu, it has become weakened because one of the people pulled out of that coalition. And so things are kind of unstable right now. With just one more person leaving, they could actually oust Bennett, and then you wouldn't have a government anymore until someone puts one together. Okay, so think about this. Think about how the government is kind of unstable right now. If this person who believes that he is Messiah comes out and he says, okay, now's the time, what happens in all of Judaism? Well, I'm no expert in Judaism, but I'm thinking that if he comes out and says that he's Messiah, and then the rabbis back him up and they're like, yep, this is the one that's been that talked with Rabbi Kanievsky, this is him. Like, imagine if you're a soldier in the IDF, that's the military, or imagine that you're a police officer. Imagine that you're in the government. Imagine you're that woman that pulled out of Bennett's coalition. Do you think that at that point anyone's going to listen to the government? Or do you think that you, as a soldier, policeman, politician, you're going to look at this newly revealed Messiah and he is now the king? He's now the king of Israel. And one of the things that Moshiach is supposed to do is bring about the third temple, right? And usher in the Messianic age. And the Messianic age is, it correlates with the millennium, how we view the millennium. It's supposed to be an age of peace, and Israel is going to be basically ruling the world from their point of view. And Moshiach will be the king of the world. So anyway, what I'm saying is that even though we wouldn't accept that man as Messiah, the Jews would. And if the Jews accept him as Messiah, and he's like, okay, I am now the king, you know, the government's faltering, that's okay, I'm here, I'm king now. Everyone would probably fall in line. It might be more complicated than that, but probably a lot of people would fall in line. And what if he gives the order, okay, now's the time. We are going to take down the Dome of the Rock, and we are going to start right now to build the third temple. Well, if that happened, I have no doubt that devout Jews would follow suit, and that's probably what they would do, which of course would upset the Arab world, and things would just kind of go crazy. Imagine if Moshiach was unveiled. The day that he is unveiled to Israel, as soon as the Arabs or Palestinians or Iranians, the entire Islamic world, once they find that out, they know what the Jews expect the Messiah to do. They would probably lose their minds. Everybody would lose their minds. Everybody. So whenever this happens, if it does happen, it's probably going to be a very volatile event. That's for me guessing. I don't know, but I don't really see it happening in a very orderly way. So okay. So if that's what the book of Revelation is talking about, the false prophet, because he'd be a false Messiah, essentially, I could see that possibly fulfilling this scripture. If this is talking about a singular false prophet, well, he would be a false Messiah, wouldn't he? But I'm not waiting for that to happen, because I don't know if that's the correct interpretation of these scriptures. It only comes up a few times in the book of Revelation. It talks about it in chapter 16. It talks about him coming on the scene when the sixth angel poured out his vial on the great river Euphrates. And then you have him. You have frogs coming out of the mouth of the dragon, which is Satan, out of the mouth of the beast, which is the nations of the world, and then out of the mouth of the false prophet, which you could say it's the Vatican, you could say it's the Moshiach, you could say it's somebody else if you want to try and assign this to somebody, or it could just generically be the great and abominable church. Who knows? Anyway, and then in chapters 19 and 20, it just talks about the fate of the false prophet and the beast and all that. Okay, so here we have a billboard. Moshiach is here. Just add in goodness and kindness. Long live the Rebbe, King Messiah forever. This is kind of weird. Okay, so Billboard identifies the King Moshiach. It's the Lubavitcher Rebbe. Lubavitch, that's like a... Okay, I think that's another name for the Chabad, which is like a ultra-Orthodox Jewish organization meant to get Israel... it's like a revival movement, essentially, and trying to get all Jews to be Jewish, because there's a lot of secular Jews, and they want to get them Orthodox, or as Jewish as possible. So, anyway... So the date of this is just a few months ago. This is December 28th, 2021. The recognition that Rebbe is Moshiach is based on 1, the description of Moshiach found in Jewish law, halakha, as codified by the great sage Maimonides, and 2, the Rebbe's own words in his talks, translated from Yiddish and sent out to Jews worldwide. The Rebbe has established a worldwide empire of Chabad houses to encourage Jews to keep their heritage, preparing them for the final redemption, which is the Messianic era. That's when he redeems the Jewish people. New emissaries are continually leaving for far-flung lands to pursue the mission of welcoming Jews back to Judaism. Additionally, the emissaries reach out to the Gentiles to promote the 7 Noahide laws from the Bible for all people for a sane world. Okay, so this is actually the only place that I've seen someone claiming to be Messiah, and if he's involved with the Chabad and he's a Lubavitcher, then I don't know. This might be him. This is the only time that I've seen this, though. It's never popped up anywhere else. So here you have Rebbe, okay? Now, I don't know if this is the man that Rabbi Kanievsky was in talks with, but I don't know. Now, let's take a quick look at, just to show you how much they think Messiah is close, okay? So this, oh wait, this is supposed to go back here. Okay. Rabbi who predicted Trump presidency has shocking new prediction for Israel's next government, Messiah. Now this is September of 2019, okay? Something with this election is going to happen out of nowhere that's going to be stunning, that nobody expects. In order for the Jews to repent, to get closer to God, to get close to their Torah, this government must be removed. In his words, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu must be deposed. This is Rabbi Mendel Kessen that's talking. Now we know that happened. After 12 years, which is an interesting number, Benjamin Netanyahu was removed. Now this article is written before what's his name? Naftali Bennett came on the scene. Okay. So At press time, the fate of the Israeli government is still very unclear. The country is deeply divided, and no obvious winner has yet emerged from the second round of voting for the 22nd Knesset. Kessin says, basically Bibi, which is Benjamin Netanyahu, basically Bibi has to be deposed. God is going to get rid of him politically. Kessin does not believe that Messiah will immediately replace Netanyahu. Quote, you need a transition guy. The person I have in mind is on the political scene. His name is Gideon Sa'ar. Now, that's an interesting idea, a transition guy, okay? Because if this man has any sort of authority, if he is in on the whole thing with Rabbi Kanievsky, then I don't know. But look at this. In essence, Kessin is claiming that the Jewish state needs a transition leader who will help the Jews return to Torah in preparation for the arrival of Messiah and the full redemption. And that leader cannot be Prime Minister Netanyahu. What kind of leader is necessary today? According to Kessin, quote, it has to be someone who can present himself as friendly and of assistance to spirituality. I'm not looking at this politically. So, what happened after this article? Okay, so this went on, and then Netanyahu was in office until the 17th of May. Oh, there's a 17, by the way. Interesting. 17s keep coming up on this channel. Just over and over again, significant 17s. Anyway, in office until the 17th of May, 2020. And then, well, I don't know. Is that when the election was? Or, okay, no. These must be the terms. Okay, so from the 17th of May 2020 until the 13th of June 2021. And that's when, it wasn't that Gideon person that he was talking about. What happened was Naftali Bennett, along with a coalition of different political parties, made it into office. They got rid of Netanyahu, and Bennett is supposed to be, what was it again? Okay, Bennett agreed to a rotation government with Yair Lapid, whereby Bennett would serve as Israel's prime minister until 2023, after which Lapid would assume the role until 2025. And this guy right here, this is Yair Lapid. So he's supposed to take over the second half. Okay? So, what I don't know right now is, does this Rabbi Kessin, does he view Naftali Bennett as the transition guy? I'd like to know what they think. But anyway, that's what he said, is there has to be a transition guy. I don't know if Naftali Bennett fits that bill. Okay, moving on to January 27th, 2020. Scientist calculates. We are currently in the final twilight before Messiah. I'm not going to read this article, but basically someone did a calculation and they feel like it's close. Okay, report. Israel's top rabbi orders ceremonial white robe to greet Messiah. Now we're in March 31st, 2020. So now, this is interesting because this is when, this is around the time that Angel Moroni dropped his trumpet from the Salt Lake Temple. And it was essentially this month, March and April, that coronavirus really hit the U.S. and things started to go crazy with that. Okay, quote. Now, this is Kanievsky. Sorry, Kanievsky. This is him right here, okay? He was like the top rabbi, from what I can tell. And you'll see as we read about him. Okay, quote, Rabbi Kanievsky requested that his people prepare him galima, which is a ceremonial white robe. Since when does the minister of Torah, Rabbi Kanievsky, wear such a thing? Some Jews wear a similar thing called a kittel for the Passover Seder, but you don't order a kittel especially made. It can be bought anywhere for 100 shekels, but an entire suit made of rich white material? In whose honor will Rabbi Kanievsky wear it? End quote. It is known that many Jewish sages throughout the ages have set aside special clothes to be worn only to greet the Messiah. Rabbi Zitschultz says, I am not promising anything. There are other tzaddikim, righteous men, who see it differently and are working daily to delay the Messiah in order to save more Jews. Okay, so some people are trying to put this off so that more people can be saved. And then he says, Rabbi Nissan does not speak often, but when he speaks, it is to be taken seriously. Rabbi Nissan said that by Passover Seder, the Gula, or redemption, will begin, and on the night of the Passover Seder, the third temple will descend from heaven. Well, that didn't happen. This is back in, again, 2020, March 2020, so that Passover has already come and gone. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Now we're March 21st, 2020. Israel's health minister. I'm sure the Messiah will arrive by Passover. Now, again, we've passed that time, and no, it didn't happen. But, let's see. But when asked about the chances of Israel continuing to be under complete shutdown until the Passover holiday, Litzman offered a rather unconventional response, saying, God forbid. We are praying and hoping that Moshiach, Messiah, will arrive before Passover, as it is a time of our redemption. I am sure that the Messiah will come by Passover and save us the same way God saved us during the Exodus, and we were freed. The Moshiach will come and save us all. End quote. Okay. Next. Following record rainfall, Sea of Galilee overflows, an omen of Messiah's arrival. This is April 13th, 2020. And of course, this would have been around the time of Passover. I'm not going to read anything from this, but you can see that that was a sign for them. Okay, this is April 17th, 2020. 10 ways to know that the Messiah will be here soon. Okay, number 1, young will shame the old. Number 2, the passing of biblical scholars, which is interesting because that actually happened. Now, I don't know how often a biblical scholar dies, but that Rabbi Kanievsky, he passed away just, let's see, it was last month, and they saw it as huge. There's an article about it. I'll show you in just a minute. So the passing of biblical scholars. 3, costly sustenance. 4, sudden poverty. 5, no government in Jerusalem. So you can see right here how this recent destabilization of the government with that one woman pulling out of the coalition, it tips it toward this happening. No government in Jerusalem. Number 6, the face of a dog. I guess we better read this one. The rabbi teach that the face of the generation will be like the face of a dog. Ben Yaakov interpreted this to mean that today's leaders, quote, are populist politicians that are not leading but following like a dog on a leash that constantly looks back to its master. Leaders are saying what the public wants to hear, not what it needs to hear. Number 7, waves of trouble. It talks about virus and China. Okay. Number 8, haste. The rabbis teach that 3 things come on the spur of the moment, and these are the Messiah, a lost object, and a scorpion. Ben Yaakov noted that the lockdown happened so quickly that people had not had time to prepare themselves. Number 9, forgetting the Bible. Number 10, when God exacts revenge. He specified China, Iran, and Italy, which he called the seat of the anti-Semitic church. Okay, so this article was out April 17th, 2020. Okay, now Israel's oracle delivers big message from God. Messiah is here. This is July 2020. This is actually an autistic person, but you can read the whole story here if you want, but they're counting what he said as an oracle message. And he says here, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but toward the end, I'm not only talking to the American Jews, I'm talking to all Jews all over the world, and especially the Jews in Europe and England. It is very dangerous to be there. It will be very dangerous for you soon. The Shekinah, divine presence, has already left these countries, so there's no more protection for the Jews abroad anymore. Yisrael, the Jewish nation, this is not a joke, this is real. So I ask, I beg the people of Israel, come home. Come home. Moshiach is here, and he's waiting, but Hashem, which is the Lord, is not giving him the sign to be revealed. But obviously come, no matter what you have or what you don't have, just come. You will lose in the end. You will only win, and you will rejoice. And there's been a lot of calls like this. Down here it talks about a rabbi who basically gave his blessing on what he said. But yeah, there's a lot of calls to the diaspora, the Jews that are still abroad, to come home. Okay, worldwide flooding, an omen of Messiah's arrival, says Rabbi. This is August of last year, 2021. And this picture right here, this is Germany. I'm telling you, I don't know. I've only been around since the 80s, okay? That was when I was born. But I don't remember seeing this kind of flooding happening in Europe. I'm sure that it probably has, but there was a lot of flooding like this last year. There's YouTube channels you can go watch, like the two preachers, Jason A. Those are kind of like the two big ones that I watch. And you can go see it. It was insane, and this year's probably going to be insane too. But anyway, they're seeing that this is an omen of the Messiah's arrival. Prominent mystic, next year will be the final Jubilee, year of Messiah's arrival. Okay, now this is this year, January 12th, and I'm assuming that he's talking, well, yeah, he is talking about the Hebrew year. The Hebrew year, oh, did I not pull it up? I need to pull it up. The Hebrew year is, the new year is on Rosh Hashanah for them. And that, let me just pull it up, is usually in October or September. This year, it is going to be, it's going to start on the 25th at sundown. Okay, the 25th of September this year. Because right now we're in a Shemitah year. So, let's see what he says here. Rabbi Yekutiel Fish, a prominent mystic from Jerusalem, gave a lesson last week in which he proved through a precise mathematical equation that next year will be the final Jubilee before the arrival of the Messiah. Quote, "We are now in the month of Shabbat on the eve of the Messiah," Rabbi Fish said at the beginning of his lesson. "If you happen to hear a shofar, don't be alarmed or confused," the rabbi joked. "It's only the arrival of the Messiah." Rabbi Evron told me the following message in the most simple manner possible, like an innocent child and not like a Torah authority. But after he told me, I realized that what we have here is an atomic bomb. Rabbi Evron informed me that next year, 5783, will be a Jubilee year and will usher the Messiah. Because right now we're in the Jewish year 5782. Today, in the absence of a fully functioning supreme Jewish court, known as the Sanhedrin, the Jewish community in Israel neither marks nor observes the Jubilee year. According to Jewish tradition, the reestablishment of the biblically mandated Jubilee is part of the Messianic process. It should be noted that the current year, 5782, is a Shemitah, sabbatical year. The Shemitah is part of a larger framework of 7 Shemitah, sabbatical cycles, in which we count 49 years. And then the 50th year is the Jubilee, as described in Leviticus. In Judaism, it is a positive religious commandment to sanctify the 50th year. That's from Leviticus 25:8. In actual practice, the biblical mandated requirement to observe the Jubilee year was disrupted when the 10 tribes were exiled, approximately 2,700 years ago. Prior to that time, the Jews were careful about counting the cycles leading to the Jubilee year. They observed all the biblical requirements of the Jubilee year, including freeing slaves and returning property to its original owner. The Jubilee year is observed only when all the nation of Israel is in the land of Israel. Therefore, when the Jews returned from the Babylonian exile, since many chose to remain in the diaspora, the Jubilee was not observed. For the same reason, the Jubilee was not observed in modern Israel. So it hasn't been observed for a very, very long time, and it follows the same concept as the Feast of Weeks, because what the Feast of Weeks is you have 7 weeks, right? 49 days, 7 weeks, and then on the 50th day is when you celebrate Pentecost, or the Feast of Weeks, or Shavuot. So it's kind of like the same type of thing here. Rabbi Fish concludes his lesson. We know that Messiah will be revealed in the Jubilee. This is stated simply and to be understood simply, but we are currently counting and observing the Shemitah without any Jubilee. We know the Messiah will come on the 85th Jubilee, but by not counting the Jubilee, we are canceling out his arrival. The Jubilee has ceased to exist. I'm not going to keep going on with that, but there's more that you can read here about it. So next year, according to him, next year is a Jubilee. Right now we're in a Shemitah until September. Israel's top rabbi hints Russia-Ukraine war is sign of Messiah's arrival. And here we have, again, Rabbi Kanievsky. And it says, one of the most prominent rabbis of this generation, he was asked about the conflict in Ukraine. His answer was unequivocal. The final redemption is imminent, meaning the Messianic age. Rabbi Kanievsky also stated that the current Russian invasion of Ukraine, which threatens to spread into multinational war, is a sure sign that Messiah is imminent. The rabbi cited Bereshis Rabbah, which states, Rabbi Elazar Bar Avina said, if you see kingdoms taunting each other, you can anticipate the footsteps of the Messiah. The Midrash bases this on the age of Abraham, in which kings were battling each other, which culminated in Abraham's quote-unquote redemption. It should be noted that Rabbi Kanievsky is a mainstream Torah scholar and never made any public statements predicting the arrival of the Messiah. This changed in 2015 when, at age 87, Rabbi Kanievsky declared the Messiah was imminent. This message was accompanied by the rabbi urging that Jews in exile return to Israel immediately. Since that declaration, Rabbi Kanievsky has made countless comments reaffirming that this is his belief. Okay, now he passes away. This is March 20th, 2022. Israel's final prince of the Torah dies. Last signpost before Messiah, according to Talmud. Okay, Rabbi Kanievsky never made public statements concerning the Messiah until 2011, when he shocked his followers by interpreting the Arab Spring uprisings as evidence that the Messiah might be near. These statements became more frequent and more intense. In 2015, following the 2014 Jerusalem synagogue attack, he repeatedly referred to the imminent arrival of the Messiah. He urged diaspora Jews to make Aliyah, immigrate to Israel, reportedly resulting in the arrival of a substantial number of French Jews. In February 2020, shortly before the Israeli legislative elections, it was reported that Rabbi Kanievsky had stated that the coming of Messiah was imminent and that he was holding meetings with him. That is shocking. Again, because if that's true, that he's talking to somebody and he believes that that person is Messiah, seems to be someone in authority to be able to make that claim that, yes, this is the Messiah. So that means, like I said, that there's someone out there, I don't know if it's this guy or not, Rebbe, but there's somebody out there that believes that they're Messiah, and if he comes out of the woodworks, and Israel, the people of Israel and all of Judaism accept him, he is suddenly king. He is suddenly king of Israel, and things could go crazy. Just things could go crazy because he, like I said, he might order that the third temple be built. It would probably upset the whole Arab world, and everybody else throughout the United Nations would probably jump on board. Because could you imagine if he was like, okay, we're gonna take down the Dome of the Rock? Everybody would lose their minds, not just the Arab world, but the UN. They'd be like, no, that's a World Heritage Site, you can't change that. And you can see how that might bring down all the nations on Israel if you have this false Messiah doing all these things that disturbs the the status quo. Okay, so that is quite the claim if he believes that he has been in contact with him. Okay, the prohibition of unleavened bread on Passover just took down the Israeli government. This was just a couple weeks ago. This was April 6th. This woman right here, Edith Silman, she withdrew from the coalition, and it was over leavened bread because during this coming Passover, they wanted to go ahead and have leavened bread in hospitals, but she was upset about that, feeling that, you know, that the law should be on the side of Judaism, that leavened bread should not be allowed in hospitals during Passover. So now the government is kind of unstable. Okay. Oh, this is just the same. It's the same one. It says here, Israel's government collapse was prophesied in the Talmud as a sign of the Messiah, and this talks about what's going on right now, and you can see how that would happen, right? Like I said earlier in the video, with the government kind of being unstable, if like one more person pulls out of the alliance, then the would-be Messiah could just step in and be like, "Oh, that's okay. I'm king now. By the way, everyone, I am now king, so everyone can just go home. I'm king." So, I don't know. I don't know if that would happen, but okay. And then we have this. I already did a video on this. Israeli soldiers received direct order, fight with bravery of Israelites leaving Egypt. This has to do with, you know, Joseph's tomb was vandalized. It was attacked, and so the military went in, they restored it, and down here later in the article it talks about how this is a end of days. They're viewing it from the end of days kind of lens. It says, the biblical personality of Joseph is an integral part of the messianic process according to Jewish tradition. There are two aspects of the Messiah from the house of David and the Messiah from the house of Joseph. The Zohar teaches that the area around Joseph's tomb will be the first to be destroyed in the war of Gog and Magog, and will therefore be the first to see the resurrection of the dead, which will then spread to the rest of the world. So they're looking at this as a sign. Okay, and that's it. So I just wanted to share those thoughts. Again, we accept Christ as the Messiah. We know that he's the Messiah, but just because we do, that doesn't mean that this would-be Messiah can't have a major effect on the world and on Israel, and may play into prophecy, may bring the final war down on Israel if he makes his appearance. And I hope you can tell just by reading all these different articles, like, they are all expecting this to happen very soon. Very, very soon. To the point where the top rabbi is claiming that he's talking to him. He ordered special clothing to be worn only when he greets the Messiah. You have all these different things that they're seeing as omens, so on and so forth. And then one of the shocking ones is just this idea that after Benjamin Netanyahu, there would be a transition person. And again, I don't know if they view Naftali Bennett as that person, but they might. So Anyway, that's it for this one. Hope you enjoyed it. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe. Like this video if you liked it. Make sure to share it with anyone that's interested in the second coming and likes to keep an eye on Israel and Judaism and what's going on there. And I'll talk to you guys later.